That's what we're seeing right now, that joy out of Wemby, along with his work ethic and his desire to want to be better and be great. But on top of that, I want Wemby to be a big man that has guard skills, playing inside out, and he is showing that right now on both sides of the floor.
Victor Wembanyama was already rewriting the rules of basketball, but now he's not just tall anymore, he's terrifying. He's grown even more, packed on weight, become unstoppable, and the league has no answer.
Look out, pump fake, Wembanyama! Jamming it! Nasty pump fake.
7'5", 245 pounds. The problem the NBA hoped would take years to develop arrived ahead of schedule. Look, it's not like Wembanyama was all hype and no substance in his first 2 seasons. Even this early in his career, he's already matched and in some cases surpassed some of the biggest names in basketball history. Remember that absurd stat line he dropped on the Raptors in Toronto back in February 2024 during his rookie year? 27 points, 15 rebounds, 10 blocks, and 5 assists. That performance put him in some rare company. He joined Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Ralph Sampson, and the Spurs' own David Robertson as the only rookies ever to post a 25, 15, 10, and 5 game. But here's the crazy part. Wemby became the first rookie ever to record separate triple-doubles involving both assists and blocks since the stats started being tracked back in 73-74. The deeper you dig, the wilder it gets. Pau Gasol was the last rookie to record 150 assists and 150 blocks in a single season. That was all the way back in 2002, when he finished with 152 and 153. Wemby, he reached those numbers in just 48 games. The only rookie to ever get there faster was the Admiral himself, David Robinson. And those weren't just rookie records. He became the first player in NBA history to have a triple-double with blocks and multiple made threes in the same game, after going 2 for 4 from deep against the Raptors. He also became the first player ever to record 75 threes, 150 assists, and 150 blocks in a single season. Again, in just 48 games. Ridiculous. His second season, he just kept leveling up. Victor averaged 24.3 points, 11 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and a league-high 3.8 blocks in only 46 games. His three-point percentage climbed to 35.2%, while taking nearly 9 attempts per game, which would have ranked him top 10 in the league in volume if he'd played enough games to qualify. He played about half the season and still led the entire NBA in blocks with 176. Second place, Brook Lopez with 148. To really understand what Wemby's production means, you have to zoom out. In his first 100 games, Victor put up 2,278 total points, 1,053 rebounds, 366 blocks, and 225 made threes. According to NBA.com, those 2,278 points are the 7th most by any player through their first 100 games in the past 45 years. When you stack his numbers against the legends, it becomes almost unreal.
Taken out of his hands by Trey Jones. Running the floor. Jeremy lobs it up. Victor throws it down.
He scored more points in his first 100 games than LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Carmelo Anthony. At the same time, he's blocked more shots than Shaquille O'Neal, Dikembe Mutombo, and Hakeem Olajuwon. So what happens when you combine the scoring of a KD with the rim protection of Mutombo or Olajuwon? Before Wemby, it was mostly theoretical, but he made it a reality. And here's the kicker. He already made more threes at this stage of his career than Steph Curry. Think about that for a second. He's over 7 feet tall. As scary as that sounds for the rest of the league, Victor wasn't done growing, figuratively or literally. Right before Spurs training camp, his official height in socks was updated to 7'4", meaning that on the floor, he's running, dunking, and pulling up from 3 at roughly 7'5" in sneakers. That's absurd, even by NBA standards. Maybe only Wilt Chamberlain ever owned the sky the way Wemby does now. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the only other player in league history to match Wembanyama's combination of points, rebounds, assists, and blocks per game from last season. Nobody ever doubted what Victor Wembanyama could do with his height. The real question was how he'd handle the NBA's physicality, the weight, the banging, the grown man's strength. Because let's be honest, Victor's always been on the lighter side. This off-season, he attacked that too. Fans got an early glimpse during the Spurs pre-season intra-squad scrimmage. Wembanyama picked up steam near mid-court, took one explosive hop at the foul line, and crashed straight into Luke Kornet's chest in the paint. All 7'2" and 250 pounds of Kornet went stumbling backward as Wemby gathered himself for a strong two-handed slam. A moment that left 10,000 home fans watching in awe as the unicorn morphed into a battering ram. Even Kornet had to admit, he's obviously gotten a lot stronger. He can honestly be just a monster. That vicious drive was the clearest evidence yet of an off-season transformation, a brutal, violent, muscle-building program designed to make sure the 7'5" All-Star wouldn't be the one getting pushed around anymore. For the 25-26 season, Wemby plans to start doing more of the pushing. He trained one-on-one with legends like Hakeem Olajuwon and Kevin Garnett, spent countless hours in the weight room, and, by his own admission, ate like it was a full-time job. The results might sound modest on paper. The Spurs now list him at 240 pounds, only about 5 pounds heavier than at the end of last season, but that's up significantly from his 210, 220 pounds on draft night back in 23. And the difference shows. Whatever the scale says, Wemby's already playing with noticeably more force and intent. Just ask Luke Kornet. That one play, bullying his way through another 7-footer for a dunk, might seem small in isolation, but it's enough to keep opposing bigs awake at night. And his body isn't the only thing that's changing. Wembanyama's game has evolved just as quickly. His confidence in his training program suggests he's ready to take another big leap this season.
He's going to pass the ball out to the corner. There you go.
Wembanyama, little stuff!
Getting to this point wasn't simple. His entire physical regime has been carefully built around the unique demands of his 7'5" frame, ever since that huge growth spurt that redefined how he had to move and train. When he entered the league, there were legitimate questions about whether his body could withstand the NBA grind. He answered those in his first 2 seasons until a new, unexpected challenge hit: deep vein thrombosis. At just 21 years old, with the basketball world at his fingertips, Wemby was forced to face something few young athletes ever think about: his own mortality. But Victor hasn't wasted time dwelling on it. Before training camp opened, he made his mindset crystal clear. I'm so much more under control and my conditioning has gotten so much better, but that comes at a price. What I've done this summer is world class, even in the field of professional sports. I don't think many people have trained the way we've trained this summer. Bold words, even by his standards. So what exactly did he do? To start with, there were the crazy drills coaches put him through. In one of them, Wemby defends a one-on-one sequence against every player in the gym. One by one, his teammates attack him, and once he's faced them all, he sprints to the other end of the court and does it all over again. No breaks, no huddles, no coach whispering pointers, just a conveyor belt of players, each trying to score on him. While his teammates got rest between turns, catching their breath, and thinking through the next move, there was only one guy who didn't get a single second off: Wemby. So when he calls his off-season training brutal, he's not exaggerating. The All Against Wemby drill is a perfect example of that. At pre-camp media day, he explained it himself. This summer, I chose to do something much more violent. Maybe that takes away from some time I can spend on shooting the basketball, but it doesn't matter. I wanted to get my body back. That quote hits even harder when you remember what came before it. He'd spent the spring in and out of hospitals, facing the reality of his own mortality after the blood clot scare. For a player who spent his life trying to protect his body, that was a cruel twist. Once he was finally cleared to travel again, he needed a reset, so he went as far away from basketball as possible, both literally and mentally. His journey to regain control began in China and Japan. In China, he trained at a Shaolin temple, practicing Chan meditation and Shaolin Kung Fu, ancient disciplines built around balance, breath, and gratitude for life's smallest details. As Vic later said, it makes you understand lessons that nothing else could have made me understand. Those experiences expanded his worldview. After a health scare that shook his sense of identity, connecting with people and cultures that centered on inner peace helped him rebuild that foundation. Of course, Wemby admits the moves he learned at the Temple can't legally appear on an NBA floor, but that was never the point. The purpose, at least physically, was to teach his body how to move in new, unaccustomed ways to feel in control again. From that unorthodox training with Shaolin monks, he jumped straight into something just as unconventional, but far more modern. When his rehab finally progressed enough to let him return to game action, Wemby linked up with teammate Harrison Barnes in Los Angeles to train with skill coach Noah LaRoche. Together, they dove into a cutting-edge method known as the Constraints-Led Approach, or CLA, one of the most forward-thinking ideas in player development today. Instead of traditional drills, CLA forces players to train exclusively through game-like scenarios. There are no scripted moves. Every decision, every reaction happens live. The idea is to train the brain and body to constantly search for the best possible solution in real time, instead of relying on patterns defenders can predict. When that player happens to be a 7'5" phenom with freakish reach and coordination, that unpredictability becomes terrifying. Because if Wemby learns to master the flow of the game itself, there may be nothing anyone in the league can do about it. The CLA teaches players to read how actions naturally chain together, to see how one drive can shift a defense, open a lane, or trigger a secondary attack somewhere else. Change one small variable, a defender's position, a rotation angle, and the entire solution changes with it. The goal isn't memorizing plays, it's learning the essence of basketball, to play without the limitations of a playbook or the constraints of rehearsed moves. By the second week, Wemby told LaRoche that his body was finally adapting, that he could feel himself understanding the rhythm of the method. And as he let go of old habits and preconceptions, his body started to move more freely, more naturally. Everyone who worked with him noticed one thing above all else: his discipline. It's rare for people this gifted to also be the hardest workers, but Wemby is built differently. His habits are relentless and they never change. Early mornings, late nights, sometimes both. He does 2 a day so often that his schedule practically forces everyone else to keep up. Trainers say Wembanyama was going through that routine 5 or 6 times a week, a load most players can only manage a few times before the weekend hits. Now that training camp is underway, that same drive is making waves in San Antonio. Even players who hadn't seen him work behind closed doors before are starting to realize just how serious he is. Spurs newcomer Lindy Waters III put it perfectly. At his age, it's eye-opening to see somebody come in and demand excellence and demand greatness. He can't do that without putting himself on that pedestal and making sure that nobody can come at him and say anything. It's easy for him to demand that, and it makes me want to work harder. There's a sense of awe and inspiration when teammates talk about Wemby's work ethic and open-mindedness. At this point, they've seen him pull off every kind of gravity-defying dunk and block shots that most players couldn't even dream of touching. Physically, he's already shown them the impossible, but it's his dedication that still leaves him speechless, because the way he works has started to redefine what's expected inside that locker room. He's not trying to be great, he's setting the standard for everyone else. As Wemby said himself, from the first game of the preseason, defense is a non-negotiable. It's not something you can't do if you want to be part of our team. We're going to hold each other accountable. We know the coaches are going to hold us accountable. It doesn't matter your status, defense is non-negotiable. After a journey away from the court and around the world, Victor Wembanyama is back, and he says he's better than ever. He knows he'll always be living on borrowed time in the NBA. If that blood clot ever returns, it could end everything. 11-time All-Star Chris Bosh had to retire because of the same condition at 32. Wemby understands there's only so much he can control, so he's pushing everything he can control to the absolute limit. And now, he's ready to take another massive step toward what could become one of the greatest careers this league has ever seen. In his first preseason game against former NBA player Frank Kaminsky and the Guangzhou Lung Lions of the Chinese Basketball Association, Wembanyama made one thing clear: he's not the same player anymore. As the game unfolded, everything started to make sense. Wemby isn't really a center, if he ever was. He's evolving into something completely different. With 9 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 7 assists in just 16 minutes, he showed the full range of what he could become this season. Wembanyama has already reshaped his offensive game to look more like a wing. It was obvious in the Spurs' open scrimmage and confirmed in that first preseason matchup that he'll often operate as an off-the-bounce creator. He's now the fulcrum of San Antonio's offense, bringing the ball up himself, attacking downhill, and initiating ball movement by drawing a crowd and kicking out early. If that Guangzhou game is any indication, Wembanyama's offensive approach this season will look more like Kevin Durant's than Anthony Davis's, with rookie Dylan Harper still finding his footing and other key rotation pieces getting healthy. Those early preseason games gave Wembanyama space to run pick and rolls, push the tempo in transition, and organize the Spurs' offense as both scorer and playmaker. But what stood out most wasn't his scoring, it was his decision-making. He wasn't hunting for shots, he wasn't calling for lobs immediately after passing the ball. Instead, he was relocating, spacing, and trusting the pass. He took just one three-pointer, something that's happened only once before in his entire career. Last season, he had just as many games with 15 threes as he did with 5. He went from spamming jumpers to spamming kick-out passes. That's not an accident. Relocation was a major focus in his summer training in Los Angeles, understanding how to use his gravity to create space for others instead of always consuming it. Those drills with Harrison Barnes and other teammates were designed to help him stay in motion and prevent defenses from locking into his position. Wemby realized that while he can score from anywhere, he needs to make life easier for his teammates so they can do the same for him. Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson said that for all the highlight plays Wembanyama will produce this year, the team is reminding him that these subtle reads are the true wow moments that define greatness. Year 3 is when stars stop chasing peaks and start raising their team's floor, possession by possession. Yes, these have only been preseason games so far, but what Wemby showed, his patience, vision, and commitment to playmaking, is rare for any third-year player, let alone one at his size. He didn't just look ready to dominate, he looked ready to elevate, and that's what makes him terrifying. The potential is undeniable, the willingness is unmistakable. He may not reach his final form this season, but the rest of the league better be paying attention, because no one is ready for the fully realized version of Victor Wembanyama. If you're not watching Wemby every night, you're missing history. We'll be following Victor's rise all season long, breaking down every moment that makes him special. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to hit like and subscribe, and maybe check out one of these videos on your screen now.